You're going to learn about empathetic listening. This is part 4 in a 4-part series on active listening skills. I'll put links to all of the individual videos in the description below this one. And if you've watched all 4 videos in this series, let me know in the comment section. I'll give you a heart and congratulate you. In the first part of the video, we'll talk about what empathy is and is not. And in the second part, I'll give you some concrete tips. Empathetic listening pays special attention to the way the other person is feeling. You do that by putting yourself in their shoes and try to understand where they're coming from. When we listen with empathy, the other person feels understood. This is how a good counselor, therapist, friend, or the occasional supervisor listens to us when they're at their best. Listening with empathy is a real gift that you can give to other people. And we benefit too when we listen this way. Listening empathetically helps us understand how the people around us are doing. That equips us to respond in more helpful ways to the needs of the moment. That's one of the reasons I believe that empathetic listening is a crucial skill for professionals and especially leaders. When you're tuned in to how your people feel, then you'll be more able to meet their needs effectively instead of being out of touch. But the concept of empathy confuses a lot of people, so here's what empathetic listening is not. Empathizing does not mean you necessarily agree with the other person. Listening well does not mean you change your mind automatically based upon what you hear. And here's what I mean. Every parent, teacher, coach, supervisor realizes that the other people they're leading might not, for example, always be filled with enthusiasm. We know that people, for example, get tired, frustrated, burned out. You know what that feels like personally, so you can easily pause and put yourself in the other person's shoes when you get the sense that they may be feeling that way. All you have to do is bring to mind times where you've felt that way and remember what it feels like. That's empathy. Now, just because you're a parent, teacher, coach, or supervisor who knows how they feel, that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to tell your tired son, student, athlete, or direct report that they don't have to take care of their responsibilities. Of course not. That's not what empathizing means. Empathizing, however, means you can adjust how you connect to the other person. Empathy helps you meet people where they are. And when they feel understood, that helps you maintain good, healthy connections with people because they know that you know what it's like. Empathy also does not mean you should try to automatically fix a problem that the other person has. The author Roy Bennett once said, sometimes all a person wants is an empathetic ear. All he or she needs is to talk it out. You've probably experienced this yourself. Something stressing you out at work, or you want to vent about it to somebody you trust. They listen and empathize, and suddenly you feel better. They haven't offered to take any concrete action, but you feel heard and understood, and that's enough. Simply listening is usually all the help you will need to offer somebody. So if you're the type of person who wants to jump in and fix things, remember that empathetic listening doesn't mean solving the person's situation. Maybe at some point they'll ask you for help directly. I'll give you a bonus tip at the end to navigate that moment. But listening with empathy, by definition, does not include that helping fix it stage. So what does empathy look and sound like? Let's talk about 3 overlapping tips to help you get better at this. Now, these might sound like steps, but they all go together. And I'll give you a bonus tip at the end that'll keep you out of trouble. First, empathy has to be genuine. Now, that might seem obvious, but some people hear about empathetic behaviors and they think I'm suggesting faking this or that these are mere superficial tactics they should use. Now, I want to be 100% clear. Empathy is authentic. I'm not suggesting you pretend to care. To be genuine, you have to mentally and emotionally put yourself in the other person's shoes. So as the person is speaking, imagine what it must be like to be in their situation. If the person just told you that somebody insulted them, ask you, how would I feel if somebody had insulted me like that? If they've just lost their job, ask yourself, how would I feel if I have just been fired? If you take the time to do this and allow yourself to feel it, you'll literally feel a sense of compassion, care, and similarity well up in you. Even though I'm using somewhat difficult examples here, you could empathize with people's positive emotions. You could put yourself in their shoes if they've just received some good news. And you should listen empathetically when people are happy and celebrating. That will also have very positive results because you'll be entering their world and sharing their joy. That builds relationships too. And if you've never experienced what they're experiencing, then come as close as you can to recall a time where at least it was something like that. Now, you'll notice so far that we're only talking about what's happening within you internally. That's usually the most significant aspect of empathy. You've not yet shared your own experiences verbally or told them anything specific about your empathy. Listening with empathy is first and foremost about making that genuine effort to see the situation through their eyes, to understand them and feel what they're feeling. Second, pay attention to their verbal and nonverbal communication. In my experience, people will usually show their emotions nonverbally much sooner than they'll explain their feelings verbally. Sometimes their words and nonverbals won't match. Someone might say, "I'm fine," but you can tell by their nonverbals that they're clearly not fine. If you pay attention, you can sometimes see little flashes of emotions come across people's faces that say a lot more about how they're feeling than their words. So be on the lookout for these nonverbal cues in professional settings, especially pressured professional settings like deadlines, presentations, important meetings, performance evaluations. Anytime you hear about changes that are happening in someone's life, pay attention and notice how they're doing. They may not say it, but they may show it. Sometimes, of course, they will directly say it. They might come out and say, "It's really frustrating," or "This is driving me crazy," or "I'm burned out." Now, if they come out and say that directly, that's definitely an opportunity to put yourself in their shoes and enter their emotional world a little bit. Third, empathetic listening usually includes reflecting back to them what you sense they are feeling. You'd reflect it back using your verbal and nonverbal skills. Verbally, this means using plain language to say what you're noticing. And unlike comprehensive listening that we talked about in a previous video in this series, listening with empathy does not involve listening for main points, details, and action steps. In contrast, when we're listening to empathize, we're listening almost entirely for the big picture emotion that the other person's feeling. So when we make reflective statements, I recommend that you keep it simple. If they seem frustrated, I might say, "That sounds frustrating." Or if I were in your shoes, I'd feel the same way. If they seem torn between two directions, you might say, "You seem torn." In a related video earlier in the series, we talked about this reflective listening as one possible aspect of active listening, but let's give it a little more detail here. Now, even though therapists and professional counselors use reflective statements when they listen, you'll notice I'm not recommending that you try to analyze, evaluate, or do a detailed interpretation of what they're feeling. The goal is to reflect back what you're noticing in a very simple way. You want to show you're hearing them and understanding them. That's all. For example, if something unexpected happened to them, you might just say, "Wow." That reflects back that you see that they were surprised by something they were telling you, and it gives them space to keep talking about it. If they're telling you about how difficult something is, you might say, "That sounds difficult." If they communicate they're anxious about something, you could say simply, "It sounds like that makes you anxious." Reflective statements show the other person that you're feeling what they are feeling and you understand where they're coming from. And of course, all of those good active listening skills and nonverbal cues we mentioned in the video still apply, like comfortable eye contact, a caring facial expression, good open body posture with their shoulders oriented toward them. In other words, you want to look and sound like you're with them. Before I give you the bonus tip, let's see what these three overlapping parts look like when we put them together. One crucial part is that you do everything you can to enter their world and genuinely feel what they are feeling. Another part is practice noticing how the other person's doing. Are they talking about how they're feeling directly? If not, do you notice how they're feeling by observing their nonverbal cues? It's most important to do this during times of stress that people might be experiencing, like pressure. Third, practice pitching back the big picture emotion that they are feeling using a short reflective statement. If you put all three of these parts together, most people you speak with will soon think of you as a person who listens well with empathy. And now for the bonus tip. What do you do if you have that strong desire to help them fix a problem that they're telling you about? This is really common. And here's what I do. I ask first before I offer help or advice. So after listening, empathizing, reflecting back what I've heard, I pause and I ask them directly, is there anything I can do to help? Sometimes they'll say yes, but most of the time I find that they really just wanted a listening ear. And they appreciate that I didn't jump in with advice or offer solutions they never asked for in the first place. A variation of this is if I'm not sure where they're going in a situation. Usually at the beginning of a conversation, I'll ask. So for example, if the conversation's blurry, I might say something like, By the way, do you want me to just listen or are you looking for advice? Now, actually, giving advice is a subject for a whole other video beyond the scope of this one, but this is a bonus tip, and that's why it's here. Giving advice is not really considered part of active listening or empathetic listening. As mentioned, this is video number 4 in this 4-part series on active listening skills. If you made it this far and you've watched all 4 videos, please let me know in the comments section. Tell me that you've watched all 4, and I'll give you a heart and say congratulations. As mentioned, be sure to take a look at all the free resources on my website. I'll put links to that in the description below this video. Until next time, thanks, God bless, and I will see you soon.